The northern wind drifts through a silent fjord, carrying whispers across dark waters that glisten beneath a silver moon. The world sleeps, yet the land remembers. Snow rests upon jagged cliffs, and deep within the quiet earth, echoes of forgotten voices stir. Voices of men and women who once wore chains, whose cries rose like the wailing of ghosts over the ice. Their story, long buried beneath centuries of silence, waits to be heard once more. Tonight, under the pale light of distant stars, their memory awakens. Close your eyes and let the cold wind of the north wash over your mind. Imagine the soft creak of a wooden ship rocking gently upon dark waters, its sails heavy with frost, its hull carrying more than cargo, it carries souls. Souls taken from lands far away, bound in chains, stripped of names, of homes, of light. The sea, vast and endless, becomes both prison and pathway. And beyond the horizon, where the mountains rise like silent gods, a fire begins to glow. It is not yet flame, only ember, a spark hidden within weary hearts that still dare to dream. The world of the north is fierce and beautiful. Mountains clothed in snow, forests deep and shadowed, rivers frozen in winter's breath. Here, life is forged in hardship. Warriors sail to distant shores seeking gold and glory, yet beneath their triumphs lies another truth. In villages where smoke curls from longhouses and laughter echoes in feasts, there are others, unseen, unnamed. They work in silence, they sleep in straw, they wake before dawn. They are the thralls, the slaves of the north, their hands rough from toil, their eyes heavy with longing. Their voices are not written in sagas. Their faces fade from memory. Yet their lives were woven into every ship carved, every field sown, every home built from timber and stone. They were the quiet breath beneath the roar of conquest. And though history spoke their names only in whispers, tonight those whispers return, carried by the wind like the low hum of a distant song. Imagine one among them, a young man taken from the coast of Ireland, his village burned, his kin scattered by raiders who came like a storm. He remembers the sound of waves crashing against his homeland, the scent of peat fires, the laughter of his sister. Now he stands beneath the northern sky, a stranger in a frozen land, his wrists scarred by iron. Each night he gazes at the stars, searching for something familiar, wondering if freedom is only a memory or a dream yet to come. Beside him, an older woman from the east tends to the hearth of her master's hall. Her hands are steady though her heart trembles with unspoken sorrow. She has seen winters pass, seen children born and lost, and though her voice has been silenced, her spirit has not. In the stillness of night, she hums a song from her homeland, a lullaby that drifts like smoke into the rafters. It is a song of endurance, of quiet strength, of a hope that refuses to die. These are the unseen souls who move through the shadows of Viking glory. As ships return with treasures, as warriors boast of raids and kingdoms tremble before northern sails, the thralls remain unseen, their labor feeding the fires of empire. Yet in the cold, in the quiet, something stirs. In their silence, a question begins to form, a question dangerous enough to shake the very foundations of the world that binds them. What if chains could break? The wind whispers through the pines, carrying secrets across frozen valleys. In the distance, wolves howl beneath the moon, their cries echoing through the forest like ancient drums. The land itself seems to listen. Every gust, every creak of ice, every flicker of flame tells of a coming storm, not of snow or sea, but of human hearts awakening to the truth that even in bondage, the spirit seeks light. In the quiet corners of longhouses, when masters sleep and the hearth grows dim, thralls exchange glances heavy with meaning. No words are spoken, yet in their eyes burns the same ember, a fragile spark of defiance, of remembrance, of longing. Somewhere deep within, they know that history is not only written by kings and warriors. Sometimes, it is rewritten by those who refuse to bow forever. Time passes like slow-falling snow. Seasons turn. Empires rise and crumble like ice on spring waters. But the whispers remain, faint, persistent, patient. They gather in secret places, in the crevices of mountains, in the corners of cold halls, in dreams that visit weary sleepers. The whispers grow into murmurs, murmurs into songs, and songs into a cry that cannot be silenced. And so begins the story of a revolt, not born from sudden fury but from centuries of silence. A story of men and women who dared to believe that freedom was worth more than life itself. Their footsteps echo across time, their courage a quiet flame that still burns beneath the frost of history. Tonight, as you drift deeper into calm and rest, listen to the northern wind. Hear the rustle of pine, the distant crash of waves, the heartbeat of a world long past yet never truly gone. Let the voices of the forgotten rise softly in your mind, not as cries of pain, but as whispers of hope, of strength, of the eternal yearning that lives within every human soul. For even in the coldest night, beneath the weight of chains, the spirit dreams of dawn. And when dawn comes, when the first light touches the mountains and the sea, those dreams become the stories that shape the world. And so we begin, in the hush of night, with the whisper of wind and memory, a tale of the North, of chains and courage, of sorrow and flame. A tale of those who refused to be forgotten, whose silent defiance would one day shake the lands of Europe and awaken the conscience of kings. Listen closely, for their story begins now, carried softly on the breath of the northern wind. The world of the Vikings was carved from ice and flame. Across the rugged lands of the north, where the sun lingered low and winters stretched endlessly, a people rose who defied the elements and the boundaries of the known world. They were sailors, farmers, warriors, and dreamers, children of a harsh land who looked upon the restless sea not with fear, but with hunger. Their longships cut through the mists like blades, carrying them beyond the horizon to lands of wonder and war. To the east, their oars stirred the rivers that led into the heart of Slavic forests. To the west, their sails darkened the shores of Britain, Ireland, and Francia. They came as raiders, as traders, as settlers, and their names spread like a storm across Europe, Vikings, the sea wolves of the north. They built their lives upon courage and craft. In their halls, the scent of smoke and mead filled the air as sagas were sung beneath beams of pine. Warriors boasted of battles fought beneath foreign suns. Kings carved from chieftains rose to rule over scattered clans, binding them through power, kinship, and the promise of gold. Their gods, Odin, Thor, Freyja, watched over them from the high halls of Asgard, and every man sought to meet death with a sword in hand, to rise in glory to the fields of Valhalla. Yet beneath this proud and fiery spirit lay another truth, quieter and shadowed, often hidden from the songs of skalds. For the world the Vikings built was not only one of freedom and conquest, but also of bondage. In their longships, alongside treasure and goods, there were other forms of wealth, human lives. The thralls, the enslaved, formed the unseen backbone of the Viking Age. They were men, women, and children torn from conquered lands, sold in markets from Dublin to Hedeby, their names replaced by silence. To the Vikings, they were spoils of war, tokens of victory, and the lifeblood of an economy built on raids and trade. In the bustling harbors of the North Sea, the clamor of merchants rose above the cries of gulls. Furs, amber, iron, and weapons changed hands, and so did people. Captives from the British Isles, the Slavic lands, the Frankish coasts, and beyond were sold to chieftains, kings, and foreign traders. Some were destined for the great estates of Scandinavia, others carried across the rivers into the markets of the East, where Arab merchants paid richly for strong young slaves. It was a web of commerce that bound the known world in invisible chains, stretching from the icy fjords to the golden deserts of far-off caliphates. In the great halls of Viking lords, thralls labored unseen. They tended the fires, tilled the soil, built the ships, and raised the children of their masters. They could not bear arms, they could not own land, they could not speak against those who commanded them. Yet they were everywhere, in every field, every home, every voyage. They were the silent pillars upon which the glory of the North rested. Without them, the wealth of the chieftains would crumble, the ships would not sail, the feasts would grow cold. And so a world of contrast emerged, of fierce independence and deep servitude, of songs of freedom sung over the muffled weeping of the enslaved. The Vikings prided themselves on honor, courage, and kinship, yet beneath these virtues, the cruel hand of necessity guided them. For in a land of scarcity, power belonged to those who could command others to labor. Conquest demanded tribute, and tribute often came in the form of flesh and blood. Still, not all among the Norse saw bondage as destiny. Some spoke in whispers of justice and fate, of the gods' displeasure at cruelty. The old sagas tell of thralls who earned freedom through loyalty, who rose from chains to honor. Yet for most, freedom was a dream as distant as the summer sun in deepest winter. Their stories were not carved in runes, their names lost to the cold breath of time. And yet, though forgotten by scribes, they lived, they suffered, and they remembered. In the flicker of torchlight, imagine the scene, a great hall alive with laughter and song. Warriors drink from carved horns, boasting of silver and slain foes. The skald recites verses of heroism, of battles across the sea. And behind them, in the shadows, a young woman pours mead into wooden cups, her eyes lowered, her heart silent. She listens to tales of lands she once called home, now spoken of as spoils. The fire crackles, the wind howls outside, and within her a memory stirs, a memory of freedom, of a voice that once sang, of a life before chains. The world of the Vikings was built on duality, on light and shadow, on honor and cruelty, on conquest and captivity. Their longships brought terror to foreign shores, yet also wonder and exchange. Their craftsmen forged beauty in gold and iron, while others forged chains. To their gods, they offered sacrifice and song, yet in their villages, countless souls prayed in silence to distant deities, pleading for deliverance. In this age of iron and ice, even the mighty were bound by fate. Kings fell, warriors perished, and storms devoured ships at sea. The Norns, the weavers of destiny, spun threads for all, for the free and the enslaved alike. And though the thralls' lives seemed small and forgotten, their suffering gathered weight like snow upon a mountain. One day, it would shift, and the avalanche would begin. The story of the Vikings cannot be told without the story of those they bound. Their triumphs are built upon hidden sorrow. Their legacy, carved into stone and saga, echoes with voices that once cried out in darkness. And within those voices, a truth begins to rise, that no glory stands forever when built upon chains. As the northern lights shimmer across the sky, casting colors over the snow, imagine those countless souls gazing upward in silence, dreaming of a freedom beyond the reach of masters and markets. The cold wind moves across the fjords, and in its breath, the faintest whisper, one day, the chains will break. The Viking Age was a time of marvel and menace, of creation and destruction, of human greatness and cruelty intertwined. And within that contradiction lies the seed of revolt, the awakening of hearts that will no longer bow, the gathering storm that will one day shake the north, and with it, all of Europe. In the quiet grey of dawn, when frost still clings to the earth and the sky is pale as bone, the thralls awaken. Their breath drifts in the cold air like ghosts rising from the ground. Around them, the world stirs, the distant call of a raven, the creak of wood, the soft murmur of waves against the shore. Yet for those bound in servitude, morning is not a beginning, only a continuation. Another day beneath the weight of labor, another day lived for the will of others. They move silently through the mist, carrying buckets to the well, splitting wood, tending fires before the masters stir. Smoke rises from hearths they built, warmth kindled by hands that will never rest in comfort. In the great halls, where warriors feast and kings proclaim their glory, it is the thralls who prepare the tables, who kneel upon cold floors, who sweep away the traces of joy they are never allowed to share. They are the invisible heartbeat of the Viking world, unseen, uncelebrated, yet essential. Their origins are as varied as the winds that sweep across the seas. Some were taken in raids, villages burned, families scattered, lives undone in the fury of steel and flame. Others were born into bondage, their mothers thralls before them, their futures sealed at birth. They come from distant lands, the green hills of Ireland, the quiet rivers of the Slavic East, the sunlit fields of Francia, all drawn into the cold embrace of the north. Here, their tongues are foreign, their gods forgotten, their names reshaped by masters who claim ownership not only of their bodies but of their very identity. Life as a thrall is measured in tasks, not hours. At dawn, they feed the livestock, tend the fields, repair the fences, haul water and timber. In the deep of winter, they labor beside frozen streams, gathering ice for storage, scraping hides for clothing, mending nets for fishing. Their hands are cracked, their backs bent, yet their work is never done. For them, rest is a luxury granted only when darkness swallows the sky, and even then, sleep comes heavy with sorrow. The sound of chains is not constant, Many are unshackled as long as obedience is certain, but the memory of iron never fades. Every command, every blow, every glance reminds them of the power that binds them. To disobey is to invite punishment, lashes, confinement, or worse, the severing of hope itself. And yet, within each heart, there flickers something that cannot be crushed, a memory, a dream, a whisper of the life that once was or could still be. In the fields, the thralls speak in hushed tones. Words shared in stolen moments, fragments of stories, prayers to distant gods, fragments of songs half remembered from childhood. In these small exchanges, they find brief refuge, a sliver of humanity in a world that seeks to strip it away. Sometimes, they speak of freedom, not as a plan, but as a longing. A far-off light glimpsed through fog, unreachable yet real enough to keep the soul alive. Not all masters are cruel, yet even kindness carries the weight of ownership. A gentle word does not break the chain. A spared punishment does not grant liberty. Some thralls are promised release for years of loyal service, but such promises often vanish with the turning of seasons or the death of a master. Freedom, in truth, is rare, a treasure seldom granted, often denied, and even when earned, it carries scars that never fade. Among the thralls are the strong and the weary, the defiant and the broken. Some accept their fate in silence, their spirits dulled by years of labor. Others hold fast to a hidden flame, refusing to surrender their will. In their eyes, one can glimpse the quiet storm gathering, not of swords and banners, but of resolve. For even those who bow each day know in their hearts that no chain lasts forever. As night descends, the thralls return to their quarters, low huts or corners of barns, far from the warmth of the master's halls. They lie upon straw, huddled against the cold, their bodies aching, their dreams filled with memories of places they may never see again. Yet in that darkness, something sacred stirs. The bond between the enslaved becomes its own kind of family, forged not by blood but by shared suffering. They share bread, stories, silence, and when one weeps, another listens. In the stillness, they find strength not in power, but in endurance. Children born in bondage grow up knowing no other life. They learn to serve, to obey, to hide their pain behind lowered eyes. But even they, in quiet moments, feel the pull of the unknown, a whisper that tells them they were not born to kneel. They watch the stars and wonder what lies beyond the mountains, beyond the sea, beyond the reach of those who command them. That wondering becomes the seed of something greater, something no master can erase. The world around them is vast and indifferent. Seasons shift, wars rage, kings rise and fall, but the lives of thralls remain bound to the rhythm of labor and obedience. Yet history is not still. Beneath the calm surface, change moves like a hidden current. Each act of kindness, each glance of understanding, each silent prayer adds to the unseen tide that will one day swell into a wave of revolt. For now, they endure. They survive the lash, the hunger, the endless toil. They cling to memories, the warmth of a mother's voice, the scent of a home long lost, the sound of laughter carried by the wind. These memories become armor, invisible yet unbreakable. They remind the thralls that they are more than property, more than tools. They are human, and within them beats the same heart that drives all men to seek meaning beyond suffering. In the dark hours before dawn, when the fires burn low and silence covers the land, the thralls dream. Some dream of the sea, of ships that might carry them home. Others dream of fields where no one commands them, of children who will never know chains. In dreams, they are free, and though the morning will return them to bondage, the dream remains, a hidden sanctuary that no master can steal. And somewhere, among the countless souls who labor unseen, a thought begins to take root. It is fragile, barely formed, yet alive, the thought that perhaps one day, the chains could break not by mercy, but by will. That even in a world ruled by power, there lies within every soul a force that cannot be bound forever. The wind moves softly through the night, carrying with it the faintest whisper of what is to come. A whisper of rebellion, of courage, of destiny. And though they do not yet know it, the thralls of the north are standing upon the edge of history, their suffering soon to become the spark that will set the world aflame. In the heart of the frozen north, where silence lies thick upon the land and the nights stretch long and heavy, a subtle change begins to stir. It does not come with thunder or the clash of swords, but in quiet moments, in whispers carried by the wind, in glances exchanged when the masters are not watching. Among the thralls, a seed takes root, small, fragile, yet alive with the promise of something greater. It is the thought that life might hold more than servitude, that even beneath chains, the spirit can dream of freedom. It begins in sorrow, as all revolutions do. A man beaten for a mistake not his own. A woman's child taken away to serve another hall. A friend sold across the sea, vanishing into the mists of a foreign shore. Each wound leaves a mark not only upon flesh but upon the soul, and the soul, though silent, remembers. Memory gathers like snow upon the mountainside, weight pressing down, waiting for the moment when it can no longer be contained. In the cold hours before dawn, when fires burn low and the world is hushed, the thralls speak softly to one another. Their voices barely rise above breath, yet in those whispers, courage begins to form. They tell stories of old gods who defied their fates, of men who rose from nothing, of heroes whose strength came not from birthright but from will. These tales become more than comfort, they become sparks. Each story, each memory, each shared pain feeds the ember that glows within them. Some among them carry scars not only from labor but from battle. They were warriors once, captured in raids, stripped of arms but not of pride. Their hands may now till soil instead of holding swords, but their hearts remember the rhythm of courage. Others possess cunning, wisdom born of hardship, patience forged through years of endurance. Together, though bound, they form something the masters cannot see, a quiet brotherhood, woven not by blood, but by suffering, hope, and the unspoken vow that one day, the world will change. At first, the acts of defiance are small. A tool hidden instead of returned. A task done slowly, a gesture withheld, a truth unspoken. A loaf of bread shared secretly among the hungry, though it belongs to the hall. Each act is a whisper, a shadow, a breath of resistance. Alone, they are nothing. Together, they are the first tremors of a storm waiting to break. The masters do not notice at first. To them, the thralls are shadows, seen, commanded, forgotten. They do not see the way eyes meet in silence, the way hands linger upon tools that could one day become weapons. They do not hear the songs sung softly in corners, songs that speak not of despair, but of dawn. And so the thralls learn to move unseen, to weave their courage into the fabric of daily toil. In the long dark of winter, when snow buries the earth and the seas sleep beneath ice, the thralls gather in hidden places, a barn's corner, a grove beyond the fields, a cave near the frozen river. There, beneath flickering light, they speak without fear. Words flow slowly, like a river breaking free of frost. They speak of cruelty, of longing, of the dream of standing tall once more. They do not yet speak of revolt, for that word is too heavy, too dangerous. Instead, they speak of freedom in the language of hope, of someday, of perhaps. Among them, a voice rises, not a leader by title, but by spirit. A man whose eyes burn with quiet fire, whose words carry the weight of truth. He speaks not of vengeance, but of dignity. He reminds them that they were born not to crawl but to walk upright beneath the sky. That no chain, however heavy, can bind what the heart refuses to surrender. Around him, the thralls listen, and in their listening, they begin to believe. Days pass into weeks, weeks into seasons. The seed grows, nurtured by every injustice, every lash, every tear swallowed in silence. Even those who once believed resistance was folly begin to feel the shift. The masters grow harsher, their punishments more severe, sensing something they cannot name. Yet fear no longer holds the thralls as it once did. For once a man has glimpsed freedom in his heart, no terror can unsee it. The world beyond their small village stirs as well. Rumors drift with traders and travelers, whispers of uprisings in distant lands, of kings who fall, of powers that tremble. The thralls hear these tales and see in them reflections of their own struggle. Perhaps the gods themselves are changing the weave of fate. One night, as the wind howls through the fjord and snow swirls like ghosts through the trees, the thralls gather once more. Their faces are weary, yet their eyes are alive. In the stillness, a vow is made, not shouted, not carved, but spoken softly, each word a thread binding them together. They swear to stand for one another, to keep the flame alive, to act when the moment comes. They do not yet know when or how, but the seed has become a promise. And as they return to their huts, to their tasks, to the endless rhythm of servitude, the world feels different. The air seems lighter, the stars closer, the chains less certain. For now, they remain bound, but their hearts have turned toward the dawn. The spark has been lit, and though it flickers, it will not fade. In the deep silence of the north, beneath the cold and the snow, something ancient awakens, the eternal truth that no soul is born to serve forever. The thralls walk beneath the same sky as kings, breathe the same air, dream the same dreams. And in those dreams, freedom takes shape, bright and unyielding, waiting for the day it will blaze into fire. Beyond the frozen fjords and shadowed forests of the north, the wider world turns in restless motion. Across the lands of Europe, kingdoms rise and fall like the tide, their banners fluttering in the uncertain winds of ambition and fear. The age is one of shifting borders and fragile thrones. Lords scheme in candlelit chambers while peasants labor in fields scarred by war. The clang of iron and the chant of priests mingle in the air, echoing across a continent torn between old gods and new faiths. In the west, the great halls of Francia resound with the steps of kings who dream of empire. The Carolingians forge alliances through marriage and conquest, their armies marching beneath crosses, their scribes writing histories that claim divine purpose. Yet beneath the gilded symbols of faith lies a familiar truth: power is built on labor, and labor is bound by chains. Across the rivers and valleys, men and women toil under feudal lords, their freedom a distant dream traded for survival. Though they are not called thralls, their lives are marked by servitude just the same. To the south, the remnants of Rome's grandeur lie scattered like bones. In Italy and Byzantium, marble pillars rise among ruins, reminders of an age when law and empire stretched across the world. Now, the old order is fractured, its strength diluted by time and greed. Merchants carry silks and spices through the ports of the Mediterranean, their ships heavy with gold and with slaves. From distant Africa to the steppes of the East, human lives are traded as easily as salt and silver, feeding the hunger of kings and caliphs alike. Far to the east, across the vast forests and winding rivers, the Slavic lands stir beneath their own rising powers. Princes carve realms from wilderness, building wooden fortresses upon the bones of conquered tribes. Along their trade routes, Norsemen sail in narrow ships, bringing furs, weapons, and captives. In bustling markets from Novgorod to Kiev, silver coins clink against iron manacles. To the merchants of the east, the thralls of the north are currency, bodies to be sold to the far corners of the known world, from the cold seas to the burning deserts. And to the south and east lies the world of the caliphs, where golden domes gleam beneath endless skies. The cities of the Islamic empires pulse with knowledge and wealth: Baghdad, Damascus, Cordoba, places where scholars study the stars and poets weave verses of eternity. Yet even in these centers of wisdom and beauty, the trade of slaves thrives, binding distant lands in invisible threads of suffering. The Norsemen, fierce and cunning, become part of this vast web, ferrying captives from Europe's northern edge into the markets of the East. Thus, the age is bound together by commerce and conquest, faith and fear, all turning upon the backs of the enslaved. The Vikings, though feared as raiders, are also merchants of men, their ships carrying sorrow as much as gold. In this, they are not alone. Every kingdom, every faith, every people bears the stain of bondage. Slavery is the unspoken foundation upon which power is built, accepted by kings and priests as the natural order of the world. Yet beneath the surface, change brews like a storm beyond the horizon. New voices rise in monasteries and marketplaces, whispering of justice, of mercy, of a world where no man should own another. The teachings of the Church spread slowly across the continent, preaching equality of souls before God. Still, even as bishops speak of compassion, they bless the chains that bind their servants. Hypocrisy cloaks itself in holiness, and the poor continue to suffer in silence. In the shadows of castles and cathedrals, the enslaved and the oppressed share a common fate, though they may never meet. A peasant bound to his lord in Francia, a thrall toiling in a Viking hall, a slave sold in the markets of Byzantium, all are threads in the same tapestry of subjugation. Their tongues differ, their gods differ, but their yearning is the same: the longing to stand unbound beneath the open sky. Europe groans beneath the weight of ambition. Wars erupt over borders and faith, while famine stalks the land. Yet in every village and harbor, trade continues, coins changing hands, ships setting sail, markets bustling with life and death. It is a world in which human lives are measured in silver, in which chains are as common as crosses. But every system built upon suffering carries within it the seed of its own undoing. The more the world depends upon bondage, the more fragile its peace becomes. For wherever the enslaved labor, so too do they dream. And dreams, once shared, become whispers, whispers become murmurs, murmurs become the roar of rebellion. The Viking slave trade, vast and unseen by most, ties their northern world to the fates of distant empires. The thralls in their halls are not merely servants, they are echoes of distant conquests, of villages burned across continents. Their suffering is not isolated but woven into the fabric of an age obsessed with power. Yet just as trade carries wealth, it also carries ideas. Along the routes where silver flows, so too travel stories, of uprisings, of escaped slaves, of kingdoms shaken by revolt. In the dim glow of the northern fires, the thralls begin to sense that their struggle is not theirs alone. Across Europe, in the east and west alike, others suffer under the same yoke. Though they may never meet, their silent defiance forms a chorus rising across the continent. And in that chorus, a truth begins to form, that no empire is unbreakable, no chain eternal. The world beyond the north churns with conflict and contradiction, with faith and fear intertwined. It is a world ripe for change, though it does not yet know it. The rulers believe their power eternal, but the wind carries whispers of rebellion from shore to shore. And among the Vikings, whose strength was forged in conquest, the faint tremor of unrest begins to echo back into their own lands. For as Europe shifts, so too do the hearts of those bound within it. And soon, the flame kindled in silence will rise from the north, born of sorrow, fed by injustice, destined to shake the world awake. Winter cloaks the north in silence. Snow drapes the hills and forests like a shroud, muffling every sound beneath its weight. The days are brief, pale with light, and the nights stretch endless and dark, filled with the whisper of winds that seem to speak in forgotten tongues. In this stillness, the thralls labor as they always have, bending to tasks that wear the body but cannot extinguish the soul. Yet beneath the frozen calm, something stirs, faint as the heartbeat of the earth, hidden as a flame beneath ash. A quiet awakening, too soft to be seen, yet strong enough to one day move mountains. It begins not with grand gestures, but with moments so small they almost go unnoticed. A glance exchanged across a field. A loaf of bread divided and shared when no one watches. A whispered name of a god once worshipped, now forbidden. The thralls begin to recognize in one another a reflection of their own yearning, the same ache for freedom, the same memories of places long lost, the same quiet rage buried beneath years of obedience. These fragments, scattered and fragile, begin to gather like snowflakes drawn together by the wind. Among them are those who remember more clearly. Men who once held swords, women who once led families, elders who recall a life before chains. They speak not loudly, for words are dangerous, but softly, in the corners of barns and by the glow of dying fires. Their voices carry tales of resistance, of villages that rose and fell, of people who refused to kneel even in defeat. These stories are not merely recollections, they are embers, passed from soul to soul, kept alive through the long winter nights. As the moons pass and the seasons turn, the thralls begin to find each other in secret. They choose places where the masters rarely tread, a clearing hidden among the trees, a cave near the frozen stream, the quiet shadows of a stable after midnight. There, they gather in silence at first, listening to the wind, feeling the weight of the world around them. And then, one by one, they begin to speak. They share their grief, their anger, their hope. They speak of the cruelty they have endured, of the friends they have lost, of the children they wish to save from the same fate. Their words weave together like threads, forming a tapestry of shared pain and quiet resolve. Out of these gatherings, trust is born, cautious, trembling, yet real. For in a world built upon suspicion and fear, trust is the first act of rebellion. They learn to read each other's eyes, to know who can be trusted with secrets and who must be shielded from danger. Slowly, they begin to shape something that did not exist before, a brotherhood, bound not by blood or law, but by a promise whispered in the darkness, that no one should bear chains forever. They give themselves no name, for names can be spoken and betrayed. They are a shadow, a breath, a gathering of souls. Their strength lies in silence, in the unseen bond that ties them together. Each one continues their labor by day, outwardly obedient, inwardly defiant. They bow when commanded, but in their hearts, they stand tall. They wait, they watch, they listen, for the right moment, for a sign, for the chance that destiny will one day offer. In their secret councils, they speak of possibilities. Some dream of escape, of vanishing into the wilderness to live free or die trying. Others speak of revolt, of rising together to cast off their chains. But most know the truth, that freedom will not come easily nor quickly. The masters hold power, weapons, and the law of the land. The thralls possess only unity, courage, and the unbreakable will of the oppressed. Yet even these may be enough, for history is shaped not only by swords, but by the strength of hearts that refuse to yield. One among them emerges as a voice, not a leader in the manner of kings, but a beacon in the night. His name is spoken only in whispers. He is neither the strongest nor the eldest, yet his words carry the weight of truth. He speaks of patience, of preparation, of the need to kindle the flame slowly so it does not burn out too soon. He reminds them that the gods, old and new alike, watch all things, and that even in suffering, there is meaning. His voice becomes a thread of calm through their fear, binding them closer, reminding them that they are not alone. Together, they begin to plan. Not yet for war, but for survival. They teach one another hidden paths through the forests, ways to move unseen, signs carved into trees to guide the lost. They hoard what they can, scraps of food, tools that might become weapons, knowledge passed in secret. They learn to watch the masters as the masters have always watched them, to see their weaknesses, their habits, their blind spots. Every detail becomes a weapon of its own, stored in memory like a blade hidden beneath cloth. Winter yields at last to spring, and with the thaw, the brotherhood grows. New faces join their circle, men broken by cruelty, women grieving for children sold away, youths who know no other life yet dare to dream of one. In every hall, in every field, in every quiet corner of the north, the whisper spreads, "You are not alone." The chain that binds one binds all, and one day, all must rise. But they know the danger. A single word spoken to the wrong ear could bring death to them all. So they move like shadows, leaving no trace. By day, they work as always, their faces masks of submission. By night, they gather beneath the stars, their breath rising in the cold air as they speak the words that keep them alive: hope, freedom, brotherhood. The masters do not yet see the storm forming. They hear only the wind, they see only the bowed heads and tired hands. They do not sense the change in the air, the quiet defiance beneath the silence. But fate moves unseen, and what begins as a whisper can grow into a cry strong enough to shatter empires. For now, the brotherhood waits. The seed they have planted must take root, must grow strong beneath the soil of secrecy. They know the day will come when the hidden flame must blaze forth, when silence must become song, when the chains must be broken not in dream, but in truth. Until then, they hold fast to one another, to the promise they have made, that in a world built upon their suffering, they will forge a destiny of their own. And as the northern lights shimmer across the sky, painting the snow in hues of green and gold, the thralls lift their eyes. For the first time, they do not see the heavens as a distant realm beyond reach, but as a reflection of what still lives within them: light in the darkness, hope in the cold, freedom waiting to be born. The night is heavy with silence, a silence so deep it feels alive. The moon hangs low, pale and cold, its light spilling across the frozen earth like a silver shroud. In the stillness, the wind holds its breath, and the world seems to wait. Beneath this vast quiet, hearts beat in rhythm, slow, steady, filled with purpose. The time has come. The long years of whispers and waiting, of sorrow carried like a hidden wound, have led to this moment. The thralls move like shadows through the darkness, their footsteps soft upon the snow, their eyes lit with something that no chain could break. Tonight, The flame they have kept alive in silence will rise into fire. It begins with a single sound, the soft creak of a door, the flicker of a torch. A hand grips wood, rough from labor yet steady with resolve. Across the village, others move in unison, each guided by memory, by trust, by the vow made beneath the northern sky. No cry is raised, no trumpet sounds. This is not the roar of armies, but the quiet awakening of a people who have endured too much. The masters sleep, unaware that the world they built upon suffering is about to tremble. The first fire kindles in the stables, where straw catches easily beneath a hidden spark. The flames lick upward, gentle at first, then hungry, devouring the dark. The glow spills into the cold air, painting the snow in hues of gold and red. With it comes the cry, low, fierce, rising from the depths of the soul. It is not a shout of hatred, but of release, the sound of chains breaking in spirit and flesh alike. Across the settlement, others answer. The night, once still, erupts into motion. Doors burst open. Figures emerge, some armed with stolen blades, others with hammers, scythes, or nothing but their hands. They move with purpose, guided not by fury alone but by the deep, calm certainty that the time for silence is over. The masters stir, confusion spreading like mist. They reach for weapons, for commands, for the authority that once bound obedience. But authority has no power in the face of awakening. The thralls no longer bow. Flames spread from one building to the next, devouring the symbols of oppression, the barns, the storehouses, the halls where they once served. The air fills with smoke and the sharp scent of burning timber. The snow glows orange, and the stars above seem to shimmer with approval. Cries echo through the night, some of fear, some of rage, some of triumph. In every sound is the same truth: the world has changed. Among the thralls, some fight, their hands guided by instinct long buried but never forgotten. Others free the captives who still sleep in huts and sheds, calling softly to them, lifting them into the cold air and the promise of dawn. Mothers clasp children to their chests, tears mixing with ash. Old men, long resigned to die in bondage, stand tall once more, their backs straight as they watch the fire consume the walls that held them. In the chaos, there is no plan, only purpose, the raw, uncontainable will to be free. Not all who rise do so without fear. Many tremble, hearts pounding, torn between the terror of punishment and the pull of destiny. Yet courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. And tonight, one by one, the thralls choose. They choose to stand, to fight, to burn away the silence that has suffocated their souls. The fire within them burns brighter than the flames that light the sky. Some masters flee into the forest, clutching what they can carry. Others fight back, calling upon the old authority, wielding steel against bare hands. Blood stains the snow, sharp and red against the white. The air fills with the clash of metal, the thud of blows, the cries of the dying. The thralls fight not for conquest but for existence. Each life taken is a weight upon the heart, yet they press on, for they know that to return to chains is a fate far crueler. As the night deepens, the village becomes a vision of both destruction and deliverance. Firelight dances upon the faces of the freed, weary, wounded, yet radiant with the knowledge that they have broken the unbreakable. Around them, the world crackles with transformation. The old order burns, and from its ashes, something new begins to take shape. It is fragile, uncertain, yet real. In the midst of the flames, a woman stands upon a rise, her hair whipping in the wind. In her arms, she holds a child once destined to serve another's table. Now the child gazes wide-eyed at the sky, watching sparks rise like stars. The woman whispers a prayer, not to the gods of her masters, but to the spirits of her ancestors, to the land that still remembers their names. Her voice is steady, her heart unbound. Nearby, the man who once spoke in secret now stands openly among his people. His hands are scarred, his breath ragged, yet his eyes shine with the quiet fire of fulfillment. He does not command, he simply stands, a living symbol of what has been won. Around him, others gather, men and women, young and old, their faces illuminated by the light they have created. For the first time, they look upon one another not as slaves, but as equals, as brothers and sisters bound by courage. The fires burn through the night, a beacon visible for miles. Travelers upon distant roads pause to stare, wondering what force could kindle such light in the darkness. Some will speak of rebellion, others of madness, still others of divine justice. But those who stand within its glow know the truth: this is the birth of freedom. As dawn approaches, the sky blushes with the first light of morning. Smoke curls upward, mingling with mist. The village lies in ruin, yet in the hearts of those who remain, something vast and unshakable has taken root. They walk among the ashes, touching the charred beams, the broken doors, the scattered remnants of the world that once held them captive. And though sorrow lingers for the lives lost, for the blood spilled, it is overshadowed by a deeper truth: they are free. They gather in silence to watch the sunrise. The horizon glows gold, and the light spills across their faces like a blessing. Some weep, others smile faintly, others simply stand in awe of what they have done. For in the rising sun, they see not only a new day but a new beginning. The chains are gone, the masters scattered, and though the road ahead is uncertain, it is theirs to walk. But freedom is not without cost. The land will answer with vengeance. Nearby settlements will hear of the revolt, and warriors will come to restore order. The freed know this. Yet even as the threat looms, they do not falter. For once a soul has tasted liberty, no fear can drive it back into bondage. They will flee if they must, they will fight if they must, but they will never again kneel willingly. As the sun climbs higher, its warmth touches their faces, melting the last traces of frost. The fires die down, leaving smoke curling into the pale sky. The thralls, no longer thralls, stand together amid the ruins, their hearts beating as one. The night of fire is over, but its light will never fade. For generations to come, whispers will carry the tale of the night the slaves of the north rose from silence, of the fires that lit the fjords, of the courage that shook the world. And though history may forget their names, the earth remembers, the wind remembers, the stars remember. Freedom, once kindled, is eternal. Dawn breaks cold and pale across the smoldering ruins. Smoke lingers in the air, heavy with the scent of ash and iron. The snow beneath is stained with the memory of blood, and the wind carries whispers of both sorrow and triumph. The thralls stand among the remnants of their bondage, free yet uncertain, their hearts lifted by the light of morning and burdened by the weight of what comes next. The night of fire has passed, but its echoes have awakened the world beyond the fjord. Word spreads like the wind through the valleys and across the frozen hills. Slaves have risen, masters have fallen, and the order of the north trembles. In distant halls, chieftains gather, their voices sharp with anger and fear. To them, the revolt is not merely rebellion but blasphemy, a challenge to the laws that have bound their world for generations. They summon warriors, men hardened by raids and bloodshed, and swear oaths to restore the old order. Steel is sharpened, ships prepared, messengers sent. The freed do not yet know it, but the storm is coming, not of snow, but of vengeance. Days pass in uneasy calm. The freed tend their wounds, bury their dead, and gather what little remains unburned. Some speak of fleeing into the wilderness, of vanishing into the mountains or crossing the sea to lands unknown. Others vow to stand and defend the freedom they have claimed with fire and blood. Around the fires, they debate in quiet voices, torn between hope and dread. For though their chains are broken, the world beyond still calls them thralls, still sees them as property to be reclaimed. The winter sun casts long shadows across the land, and in those shadows, scouts appear. Warriors move through the forests, their cloaks blending with snow, their axes gleaming. The sound of horns echoes from afar, deep, mournful, inevitable. The freed know then that there will be no peace. The masters come not to forgive, but to erase the memory of defiance. And so, with heavy hearts, they prepare. They have no armies, no walls, no great weapons. Only courage, unity, and the fierce knowledge that life without freedom is no life at all. They gather in the hills, where the land offers shelter, where the trees stand like silent guardians. Men and women who once tilled fields and served tables now stand side by side, clutching tools turned to weapons, hammers, scythes, knives, axes torn from burning walls. They are not trained for war, yet their hearts burn with a strength no soldier can match. The first snow of battle falls quietly. The enemy comes with banners and commands, their steps sure, their faces cold with righteousness. They call for surrender, promising mercy for obedience, death for defiance. But the freed do not kneel. They answer with silence, with eyes that hold neither fear nor apology. When the horns sound, the valley erupts. The clash is brutal, raw, a storm of desperation and fury. Steel meets wood, flesh meets frost, and the cries of the living blend with the howl of the wind. The freed fight as if the earth itself has risen with them, striking not for conquest, but for the right to exist. They know the odds, yet in their hearts there is no turning back. Each blow struck is a prayer, each wound a testament to the price of liberty. Amid the chaos, the air shimmers with the breath of the slain. The snow beneath becomes a tapestry of red and white, beauty and horror intertwined. Some fall quickly, others stand until strength fails, their final breath carried away by the cold wind. Yet even in death, they do not break. For every life lost, another rises in defiance, driven by the memory of chains now shattered. The battle stretches into the pale hours of the afternoon. The sun, low in the sky, casts golden light upon the frozen ground, upon faces streaked with soot and tears. Victory does not come easily, nor does defeat. The freed hold the line, their unity stronger than the blades that cut them down. The warriors sent to crush them falter, for they face not slaves, but a people reborn in fire. When night descends once more, the field lies quiet save for the moan of the wind through broken trees. Bodies lie scattered like fallen leaves, and the air hums with the solemn silence of sacrifice. The freed walk among the dead, their hearts heavy yet unyielding. They tend to their wounded, speak words over the fallen, and lift their eyes to the sky where the stars burn cold and eternal. They have paid dearly, yet they still stand. But peace is fleeting. More warriors will come. The lords of the north will not forget, nor forgive. The freed understand that their struggle is not a single battle, but a war against the very order of their world. Some choose to flee, slipping away into the forests and mountains where no man rules. Others remain, determined to defend what they have won, even if it costs them all they have left. In the days that follow, the land becomes their refuge and their grave. They move through valleys cloaked in mist, through forests dense with shadow, always pursued, never defeated. Each step is a hymn to endurance, each breath a vow to remain unbroken. They become legends in motion, whispers upon the wind, phantoms in the snow. To the lords, they are fugitives. To the earth, they are children returned to her embrace. Hunger gnaws, cold bites, wounds ache, yet still they carry on. Around their fires, they tell stories of the night the world changed, of the flames that burned away their fear. They speak of those who fell, their names carried like sacred songs. And though despair presses close, hope remains, fragile yet unextinguished, a light that no winter can smother. In hidden valleys, they find allies, wanderers, outcasts, others who know the cruelty of chains. Together, they form small bands, living by the strength of their hands and the will of their hearts. They raid when they must, trade when they can, and above all, they remember. For memory is their weapon, and story their shield. As long as the tale of their revolt endures, they are not truly defeated. Seasons turn. The fires of vengeance fade into embers. The lords rebuild their halls, but whispers haunt their feasts. Songs sung in distant villages tell of slaves who rose and fought, of a night when the sky burned with freedom's flame. The rulers claim victory, yet they sleep uneasily, for they know the truth, that power built upon suffering is never safe, and fear cannot silence a dream once born. The freed, scattered across the wild lands, become part of the earth's quiet song. Some find peace in distant places, their children growing up free beneath open skies. Others vanish into legend, their fates unknown, their names carried by the wind. Yet all who live remember the cost. Freedom, they have learned, is not a gift but a fire, one that must be guarded, fed, and, when the time comes, kindled anew. On cold nights, when the wind moves through the trees and the stars gleam like ice, the land itself seems to whisper their story. It speaks of courage in the face of hopelessness, of sacrifice in the name of dignity, of blood spilled upon snow to water the roots of liberty. And though centuries may pass, the echoes remain, soft, steady, eternal. The battle is over, but the struggle endures. For every chain broken, another is forged somewhere in the world. Yet as long as hearts remember, as long as one voice dares to whisper freedom into the dark, the spirit of those who rose from bondage will never fade. They have become part of the world's soul, a reminder that even in the coldest night, beneath the weight of blood and ice, the flame of freedom endures, unyielding and undying. The fires have faded, yet their light travels farther than the eye can see. Across mountains and rivers, across frozen seas and winding roads, the story spreads, carried by traders, wanderers, and whispers in the night. In distant halls, kings and lords lean close to hear the tale. Slaves in the north have risen, chains have been broken, masters have fallen. The world, so certain in its order, feels a tremor deep within its heart. What once seemed eternal now seems fragile, and the echo of revolt moves through Europe like a breath of wind through tall grass, unseen, unstoppable. In the markets of the south, merchants speak of it between bargains, their voices hushed yet filled with awe. They tell of a land of frost and fjords, where those once bound in silence rose against their captors and claimed the fire as their ally. In the ports of the east, sailors recount the story with wide eyes, painting pictures of flames reflected upon snow, of cries rising into the night like songs of defiance. Some call it madness, others miracle, but all feel the weight of its meaning. For in every corner of the world, there are those who bear chains, and this tale stirs something long buried within their souls. In the courts of kings, the story arrives wrapped in fear. Advisors speak of danger, of unrest that might spread if not crushed swiftly. To rulers, rebellion is a contagion, and this northern spark threatens to set their own dominions ablaze. Edicts are issued, sermons preached, soldiers sent to guard against shadows. Yet beneath the stern commands and the ringing of church bells, unease lingers. For even the mighty know that no sword can silence an idea once it has taken root. Among the clergy, the tale becomes a question. In candlelit monasteries, monks copy scriptures by trembling hands, their minds wandering to the thought of justice and divine will. Some whisper that the revolt was punishment for cruelty, that the hand of heaven guided the enslaved to rise. Others condemn it as sin, a rebellion against the order ordained by God. But whether seen as curse or blessing, it cannot be ignored. Even in prayer, the echo remains. In the villages of the common folk, where hardship is a familiar companion, the story is received not with fear, but with wonder. Peasants tilling frozen fields pause to listen, eyes alight with cautious hope. They see themselves in the faces of the freed, people who once bowed, who once served, who once believed there was no escape. Around hearths, in quiet nights, they speak of the northern uprising in soft tones, as if invoking a sacred name. They do not speak of vengeance or war, but of courage, the courage to believe that even the lowliest soul holds the power to change fate. To the merchants who thrive on the trade of human lives, the tale is a warning. Their ships carry not only goods but rumors, and in every port the whispers grow louder. The revolt has shaken the foundation of their commerce. Some look upon their cargo with unease, wondering if the eyes that stare back from the hold now carry the same fire. For the truth has begun to spread like a seed upon the wind, a truth that cannot be contained by borders or laws, that no one was born to be a slave. In the northern lands, where the revolt began, the earth itself seems changed. The ruins of burned halls stand silent beneath the snow, monuments to the night when the old order cracked. Travelers passing through feel a hush in the air, as though the land remembers. Songs begin to emerge, quiet, mournful, defiant. They tell of the nameless brave, of those who rose with nothing but hope and flame, of lives lost and freedom won. The sagas, once filled only with kings and warriors, now carry new voices, the voices of the forgotten. Yet not all greet the tale with reverence. Some deny it, claiming it to be a fable spun by dreamers and fools. Others twist it into caution, a lesson in the cost of defiance. They speak of the blood spilled, the homes destroyed, the vengeance that followed. They warn that rebellion leads only to ruin. But even in their warnings lies an admission that the revolt was real and its memory cannot be erased. As seasons pass, the story grows, shifting with each retelling. In one land, it becomes a legend of divine justice, in another, a myth of doomed heroism. But beneath every version lies the same truth: the enslaved dared to rise, and for a moment, the world trembled. In that trembling, something awakened, a flicker of recognition that the chains of one are the chains of all. In distant monasteries, scholars begin to write of it in secret, hidden between lines of history. They see patterns, signs that the world is changing, that the hearts of men can no longer accept bondage as fate. In the years to come, these writings will be uncovered, their words carrying the memory forward. But even now, without ink or parchment, the story lives in the breath of the people, in the rhythm of their songs, in the quiet dreams of the oppressed. The rulers tighten their grip, fearing what they cannot control. Laws are sharpened like blades, punishments made harsher. Yet each act of cruelty only fans the embers, for those who hear of the revolt cannot forget it. In taverns and temples, in fields and on ships, the question lingers, if they could rise, why not we? The answer is not spoken aloud, but it grows within hearts like dawn behind a dark horizon. The revolt becomes more than an event, it becomes a symbol, a star guiding those lost in the night. Long after the fires have cooled and the bodies turn to dust, its spirit endures. Mothers tell their children of the thralls who broke their chains. Wanderers carry the tale across continents. It becomes part of the world's song, sorrowful, defiant, eternal. And so, though the revolt may have been crushed, though its heroes lie nameless in frozen ground, their courage lives on in whispers and dreams. The masters rebuild their halls, the kings continue their wars, but the wind carries the echo of freedom still. It drifts across Europe, soft yet unyielding, reminding all who hear it that no order stands forever, and that even in the darkest night, the human spirit remembers the light. The fires have long faded, and the snow has fallen again, covering the blackened earth where freedom first rose. What once blazed with light now lies silent beneath a veil of white, as if the land itself seeks to heal the wounds of that fierce awakening. Yet beneath the stillness, the memory remains, burned into the soil, carried in the wind, etched into the hearts of those who survived. The revolt has ended, but its echoes linger, soft as breath, heavy as sorrow. The freed walk among the ashes, their steps slow, their faces carved with both pride and grief. They have torn down the walls that held them, shattered the chains that bound them, yet the cost is written upon their souls. So many have fallen, brothers, sisters, friends whose laughter once filled the night, whose dreams now sleep beneath the frozen ground. They speak their names softly, one by one, as though calling to the stars to remember what the world might forget. For every victory carries its shadow. Freedom has come, but it comes stained with blood. The village that once rang with the cries of labor now lies in ruin, its halls collapsed, its fields scorched. The hands that once built for others now build for themselves, yet each stone lifted is heavy with the weight of loss. The taste of liberty is bittersweet, sharp with triumph, soft with mourning. They have won the right to live unbound, but they have learned that even freedom demands sacrifice. Some gather what they can and begin to move, guided by instinct, by hope, by the promise of a life beyond the reach of vengeance. They walk into the wilderness, through forests thick with snow, across mountains where the air bites like iron. They carry little, a few tools, a few memories, the fire of survival burning in their chests. Behind them lies the world of chains, before them, an unknown road. Each step forward is an act of faith. Others remain, unwilling to leave the place where they broke their bondage. They tend the graves of the fallen, whispering prayers in tongues long silenced. They rebuild with trembling hands, planting seeds in soil watered by tears. They know the masters will come again, that the old order will seek to crush them, yet they choose to stay, not from ignorance, but from courage. To live freely upon the land that once enslaved them is itself a form of defiance. And indeed, vengeance does come. Warriors sent from distant halls descend upon the ruins, their blades flashing, their faces hard with duty. They find only silence, the embers long cold, the freed scattered to the winds. Some are hunted, captured, dragged back in chains. Others vanish into the forests, ghosts among the trees. Yet even as the masters rebuild their dominion, something has changed. Fear no longer holds the same power. The memory of revolt cannot be bound again. In the courts of the powerful, the uprising becomes a warning spoken in hushed tones. Laws are hardened, punishments sharpened, watchful eyes placed upon every servant. Yet beneath the surface, unease festers. The revolt has proven that even those born to bondage carry within them the spark of defiance. The lords may rebuild their halls, but they cannot unmake what has been awakened. Among the freed who survive, life takes many shapes. Some find shelter in distant lands, among villages that welcome them as wanderers, not slaves. They take new names, build new homes, and teach their children to walk with heads unbowed. They tell the story of the night the sky burned, of the courage that shattered chains, of the price paid in blood for a single breath of liberty. In their songs, sorrow mingles with pride, for though they have lost much, they have claimed something eternal. Others live as wanderers, moving from place to place, carrying the memory of the revolt like a sacred flame. They work where they can, sleep beneath open skies, and speak their tale to any who will listen. To some, they are heroes, to others, heretics. But wherever they go, their presence reminds the world of a truth that cannot be buried, that no chain is unbreakable. In time, the land forgets the details, as all lands do. The burned halls crumble, the graves sink beneath the moss, the names fade from lips. But the spirit of that night lingers, woven into the quiet hum of the earth. The revolt becomes legend, then myth, then memory, passed down in fragments, a tale told by firesides, a whisper among the oppressed, a promise carried in the wind. For those who lived it, the years that follow are both blessing and burden. Freedom is not the end of struggle but its beginning. Without masters, they must learn to master themselves, to build, to sow, to heal. The habits of servitude cling like shadows, and the ghosts of the past walk beside them. Yet with each sunrise, with each breath drawn in open air, they learn what it means to be truly alive. Some nights, as the stars burn above the quiet earth, the survivors gather together. They speak of the ones they lost, their voices trembling like leaves in the wind. They share stories of laughter amidst hardship, of love that endured even in chains, of dreams once whispered in the dark now spoken aloud beneath the sky. In these moments, sorrow softens, and peace, fragile and fleeting, descends. The revolt did not reshape the world in an instant. The lords still rule, the markets still trade, the chains still rattle in distant lands. Yet something has shifted, subtle but profound. The idea of freedom has taken root where none believed it could grow. And though the soil is cold, though centuries may pass before it blooms, the seed remains. The triumph lies not in conquest, but in remembrance, in the courage of those who dared to rise, in the hope they left behind. The tragedy lies not in their losses, but in the world that forced them to pay such a price. Together, triumph and tragedy form the legacy of their rebellion, a story written in flame and frost, in silence and song. And so, the world moves on, but never quite the same. The wind that sweeps across the northern hills carries more than cold. It carries a whisper, faint, eternal, of the night when the enslaved stood as free men and women, when their cries rose to the heavens and shook the earth below. In that whisper, the truth endures. Freedom, once claimed, can never truly die. Time moves quietly over the scars of the land. Seasons turn, snow melts into rivers, grass grows where blood once stained the earth. The fires have long faded, yet the memory lingers like an echo beneath the soil. The revolt, though crushed by sword and silence, has left something behind, a lesson carved not in stone, but in the hearts of all who remember. In the ashes of their defiance lies a truth that cannot be undone, that even the lowliest soul holds the power to stand, and that freedom, once awakened, is a flame that outlives those who first kindled it. In the villages that rise where the old halls once stood, whispers endure. Children born long after the fires are told of a night when slaves became warriors, when the chains of generations shattered beneath the weight of courage. The tale drifts through the years like a ghostly song, changing with each voice, yet always carrying the same heartbeat, that no life is meant to kneel forever. The elders speak softly, their eyes distant, reminding the young that the strength of a people is not measured in swords or gold, but in the will to be free. The masters rebuild their dominion, but it is not as it was. Fear lingers in their eyes, a quiet knowledge that obedience is never certain, that silence may hide a storm. They treat their servants with caution, their commands tempered by unease. For though they still claim power, they cannot forget the night when their halls burned and their word lost its weight. The revolt has left no kingdom unchanged, even those who crushed it feel its shadow in their sleep. Among the freed who survived, the lessons are deeper, carved into the very soul. They have learned that freedom is not a single moment of triumph, but a lifelong journey. It must be tended like a fire, fed with courage, guarded against despair. They know that liberty won through blood demands vigilance, that the world will always seek to bind what it cannot control. And yet they also know that the dream is worth the cost, that even in failure, they have given the world a vision of what might be. In distant lands, where the story travels on the lips of merchants and travelers, it becomes a symbol, a mirror reflecting hidden hopes. In the monasteries of the south, scribes write of it between lines of scripture, unsure whether to condemn or to praise. Some call it rebellion, others redemption. To the oppressed who hear it, it is a promise, a reminder that their suffering is not eternal, that somewhere, once, others rose and defied the darkness. The revolt teaches that chains are more than iron, they are born of fear, and fear can be broken. It shows that unity is strength, that when the voiceless stand together, even kings may tremble. It whispers that courage is not loud, but steady, found not in rage but in resolve. And it reminds all who listen that history is not written only by rulers and conquerors, but by those who dare to resist. In the quiet places where the freed have settled, the lessons live on in their ways. They work the soil with reverence, for they know what it means to labor for another's gain. They raise their children to walk upright, to speak their minds, to bow to no unjust master. Around their fires, they tell stories not of conquest, but of endurance, of how the meek rose in the dark and claimed the light as their own. These tales become their scripture, their inheritance, their shield. The land itself seems to remember. The wind that sweeps across the fjords carries a certain stillness, as if listening for voices long gone. The rivers flow through valleys once filled with cries, their waters murmuring faintly of struggle and release. The mountains stand eternal, witnesses to both bondage and awakening. Nature holds no judgment, only memory, and in that memory lies quiet reverence. Generations pass. The revolt becomes legend, then myth, yet its essence endures. In every age, there are those who feel the same yearning, who look upon their chains and dream of breaking them. And though they may not know the names of those who first rose, they carry their spirit within, the same defiance, the same hope. The lessons live not in books or monuments, but in the human heart, which forever hungers for freedom. The story also warns of the cost. It teaches that liberation is born in struggle, that every dawn must pass through darkness. It tells that victory may not last, that many who fight will fall, that the world may not yet be ready to change. But it also teaches that every act of courage plants a seed, and though it may sleep for generations, it will one day bloom. In the ashes of revolt lies wisdom, that dignity is not granted but claimed, that no man is born to rule another, that even in despair, the spirit can rise. The freed have shown the world that chains can break, that silence can speak, that even the forgotten can become the heartbeat of history. Their lesson is not one of conquest, but of awakening, a reminder that the power of the human soul is greater than the might of any master. And so, though time buries their names, it cannot bury their truth. The revolt has passed, but its lesson remains eternal, whispered in the quiet moments between heartbeats, carried on the breath of the wind. It tells all who listen that freedom is not a gift, but a birthright, and that even in the darkest night, the flame of liberty waits, patient and unyielding, to rise again. The centuries turn like pages in an ancient book, and the memory of the revolt becomes a whisper carried through time. Yet though the world changes, the echo does not fade. It lingers in the corners of Europe's conscience, quiet but persistent, shaping hearts in ways unseen. The story of those who rose from chains drifts across generations, seeding questions that cannot be silenced. In a continent bound by kings and lords, where faith and power weave the fabric of life, the tale becomes a soft tremor beneath the surface, a call to awaken. In monasteries where candlelight flickers upon parchment, monks pause in their copying, their minds stirred by rumors of old rebellions. They read the scriptures that speak of equality before God and wonder how such words can live beside the practice of bondage. In churches and cathedrals, priests preach obedience and order, yet in the quiet of confession, their voices falter. For deep within, they feel the weight of contradiction, the struggle between faith and cruelty, between divine love and human greed. Slowly, the teachings begin to shift. The words of mercy and compassion grow louder, echoing through sermons and prayers. Scholars debate the nature of the soul, declaring it unchained by birth or station. Some speak boldly, claiming that all men and women share the same light, that the bondage of one is the sin of all. Their voices are few, often silenced, yet each word plants a seed in the fertile soil of awakening. In the courts of kings, the winds of change stir faintly. Rulers who once traded lives for silver begin to see the shadow cast by their own greed. They fear revolt more than pity, yet fear itself becomes a teacher. Laws are questioned, customs doubted, and though the chains do not vanish overnight, cracks appear in their iron links. Across the seas, new markets rise, and the trade in human lives swells once more, yet even there, whispers of conscience follow. The world moves forward, blind and stumbling, but not without glimmers of light. Among the common folk, the transformation is quieter still. In villages where generations have known toil and obedience, a new tenderness emerges, a sense that suffering is shared, that all labor is sacred. Songs change their tone, stories shift their endings. Mothers tell their children that kindness is strength, that cruelty is weakness, that the gods favor the humble. Though the old hierarchies remain, something within the heart of the people begins to soften. The memory of the Northern Revolt becomes a lesson cloaked in myth. Some say it was divine punishment upon cruel masters, others claim it was the work of restless spirits. Yet beneath the myths lies truth, that men and women once rose against injustice, and that their courage became part of the world's soul. This truth, though hidden beneath centuries of dust, glows like an ember in the dark, waiting for the breath of conscience to reignite it. As Europe shifts through war and faith, conquest and reform, the idea of freedom slowly takes root. The rise of new faiths, the spread of learning, the awakening of minds all draw from that same deep source, the eternal yearning for dignity. Thinkers begin to speak not only of kings and lords, but of the worth of every human being. Poets sing of liberty, philosophers write of rights, and in their words, the old story finds new voice. Even those who never heard the tale of the Viking thralls feel its shadow. In every struggle for justice, in every cry against oppression, echoes of that ancient fire resound. The world begins to see that power without mercy is hollow, that strength without compassion is cruelty. Slowly, laws change. Slavery, once accepted as fate, becomes a mark of shame. Where once chains were forged in daylight, now they are hidden in darkness, for conscience no longer tolerates their gleam. But transformation is never sudden. For every heart that opens, another remains closed. Wars are fought, empires rise, and countless souls still suffer beneath the yoke of greed. Yet through it all, the quiet force of memory endures, whispering of a time when the voiceless found their voice, when the forgotten stood as equals, when courage broke the silence. The world may stumble, but it does not forget. In the halls of learning, the story becomes lesson, in the chambers of faith, it becomes prayer. Philosophers speak of liberty as destiny, preachers of compassion as duty. And though centuries will pass before the world dares to declare that no man should own another, the seed has already sprouted. It grows unseen, watered by sorrow, nourished by hope. The conscience of Europe awakens slowly, like dawn upon a misted field. Light touches the towers of power, the homes of peasants, the altars of faith. It reveals the truth long hidden, that all souls are equal, that the chains of one weigh upon all. The memory of the Northern Revolt, once a distant legend, becomes part of this awakening, a whisper urging the world toward kindness. And so, though the names of those who rose are lost to time, their spirit endures. They live not in monuments or scrolls, but in the quiet shift of hearts, in the gentle rise of empathy, in the growing belief that cruelty is not destiny. Their revolt was not in vain, for its echo has shaped the conscience of nations, guiding them, slowly and painfully, toward the light. The transformation is silent, unseen, yet real. Like a river carving stone, it moves with patience, carrying the world toward a horizon where freedom is not the privilege of the few, but the birthright of all. The flames that once burned in the fjords have become the glow within humanity's soul, reminding all who listen that no darkness lasts forever, and that every act of courage leaves behind a path for others to follow. Time drifts like mist across the centuries, softening the edges of memory, turning truth into legend and legend into myth. The revolt that once burned with the heat of flame now glows faintly like a distant star, its light reaching across generations. Few remember the names of those who rose, for they were never written in the Chronicles of Kings. Yet stories endure where ink fades. They live in songs, in whispers, in the quiet retellings beside winter fires. And though shaped by time and tongue, their heart remains the same, the tale of the bound who dared to stand, of the silent who learned to speak, of the forgotten who became eternal. In the northern villages, old storytellers speak of the night the sky turned red. They say the gods themselves wept with joy as the thralls broke their chains and claimed the fire as their ally. Children listen wide-eyed as the sagas unfold, of warriors born in shadow, of women who sang freedom into the wind, of a land trembling beneath the footsteps of the newly unbound. The truth is buried beneath layers of wonder, yet in every telling there is a spark of what truly was. For though myth may adorn the tale with gold and glory, the soul of it, the courage, the defiance, the hope, remains untouched. Across the seas, travelers bring fragments of the story to distant lands. In the halls of the East, it becomes a parable of justice. In the markets of the South, a song of fate and divine retribution. Each culture molds the tale to its own heart, weaving gods and spirits into the threads, yet always preserving the moment when the weak rose against the mighty. The revolt becomes more than history, it becomes a mirror, reflecting the desires of all who long for deliverance. In monasteries, monks record the story in ink and scripture, though their pens tremble with uncertainty. They cannot decide whether to mark it as rebellion or revelation. Some write of it as a warning, a lesson in humility for masters who grow too cruel. Others see it as a sign from heaven, proof that even the lowest are seen by God. In their hands, the tale becomes sacred, a whisper of divine justice echoing through the halls of faith. Poets take up the story and turn it into song. They speak of flames rising from snow, of tears frozen on cheeks, of hearts that refuse to bow. Their verses spread across kingdoms, carried by wanderers and minstrels, sung in taverns and courts alike. And though the words change, the feeling remains, the quiet awe before the strength of the human spirit. The revolt becomes a dream retold in melody, a lullaby of freedom sung to generations who may never know chains but still feel the weight of the world. In time, scholars seek the truth hidden within the myths. They search the ruins of old halls, trace the patterns of trade and war, read the fragments of ancient records. They find glimpses, burned villages, vanished names, whispers of uprisings that shook the north. Piece by piece, they uncover what legend has veiled, realizing that behind every song lies a heartbeat, behind every myth a life once lived. They see that the story, though wrapped in wonder, was born from flesh and fire, from real souls who bled and dreamed. But the people do not need proof. For them, the myth itself is truth enough. It tells them that freedom is possible, that courage is stronger than chains, that even in darkness, light can rise. Around their fires, they pass the story from one generation to the next, their voices soft yet certain. Each telling keeps the memory alive, transforming sorrow into strength, pain into promise. As centuries pass, the myth grows gentler, like a river smoothing the stones it touches. The violence fades, the blood is forgotten, and what remains is the light, the moment of rising, the dawn of hope. Children hear it as a fable of courage, elders speak of it as prophecy. And though the details blur, the essence remains, that once, in a land of ice and shadow, the enslaved rose and changed the world. The myth becomes part of the land itself. The wind that moves through the fjord seems to whisper their names, the rivers carry echoes of their cries, the mountains stand as silent witnesses to their courage. In the northern lights, shimmering across the sky, some claim to see their spirits dancing, free, eternal, unbound. The earth remembers even when men forget. In every age, new voices add to the tale. Some tell it as a song of triumph, others as a lament. Each version reveals more about the hearts of those who tell it than the events themselves. Yet all share the same heartbeat, a reverence for those who rose not for conquest, but for dignity. The myth becomes a vessel, carrying forward the lesson of the revolt long after its details fade. And so, though the world changes, kingdoms fall, faiths rise, languages shift, the story remains. It becomes a part of humanity's shared dream, a whisper that crosses borders and generations. In times of peace, it is a reminder; in times of tyranny, a call. Whenever men and women feel the weight of chains, the old tale stirs within them, a soft voice saying, "Remember, you were not born to bow." Myth is memory's shield, guarding the truth when the world would forget. It may clothe the past in wonder, but it carries the essence of what was, the cry for freedom, the courage to stand, the fire that no storm could extinguish. The revolt has become legend, and legend has become promise. In every heart that yearns for liberty, the story lives on, shining like a star that never fades. Night has fallen once more upon the northern lands. The sky stretches wide and endless, painted in shades of deep indigo and silver, and above the silent earth, the northern lights shimmer like a dream come to life. Curtains of green and gold drift across the heavens, slow and graceful, as though the sky itself remembers the fires that once rose from the ground. Beneath their glow, the land lies quiet, mountains standing like ancient sentinels, rivers whispering softly to the sea, forests breathing in rhythm with the wind. And in that stillness, one can almost hear the echoes of the past, faint, tender, eternal. Here, under the vast northern sky, reflection settles like snowfall upon the soul. The story of the revolt is long gone in years, yet its presence lingers in the air, woven into the silence of these valleys and the sighs of the cold wind. If you listen closely, you can almost hear their footsteps, the thralls who once walked these fields, their hands calloused, their eyes filled with longing. You can sense their courage rising again with each whisper of the breeze, their dreams shimmering in the pale light of the aurora. Though their bodies have returned to the earth, their spirit lingers, mingled with the soil, the snow, the stars. The northern lights move slowly, like ghosts dancing across the heavens, and each flicker feels like a memory awakening, the spark of rebellion, the cry of freedom, the tears of those who fell and the hopes of those who survived. Beneath this sky, it is easy to believe that the world remembers. That the wind carries their names, that the stars keep their secrets, that the land itself cradles their story with gentle hands. Time may have buried their deeds beneath centuries of silence, but the soul of what they began still hums softly in the night. Close your eyes and breathe the cold air. Feel the vastness of this place, the weight of history pressing gently against your heart. These lands have seen conquest and loss, fire and frost, yet through it all, something endures, the quiet truth that freedom is not a gift bestowed by kings, but a flame born in every human heart. Beneath the northern lights, that flame seems to glow brighter, reflecting the colors of the sky in every drifting snowflake. The earth itself feels alive with remembrance, whispering to all who listen, they rose, they fought, they dreamed. The stars above are ancient, older than any empire, older than the chains once forged upon this ground. They have watched generations come and go, watched the strong rise and the weak endure, watched the endless cycle of bondage and release. And still they shine, patient and unchanging, as though reminding the world that all things pass, yet truth remains. Their light falls upon the frozen lakes and quiet fields, upon the places where the thralls once stood, and it feels like a benediction, a promise that their struggle was not in vain. In this silence, you can feel their presence, not as ghosts of sorrow, but as guardians of memory. They stand beside the wind, their voices soft as snow, reminding all who walk these lands that freedom is worth every price, every tear, every breath. The lessons they left behind lie scattered like stars across the sky, that courage can bloom in darkness, that hope can rise from despair, that even the smallest spark can ignite a dawn. Beneath the glow of the aurora, the world feels hushed, as if listening to the heartbeat of the earth. The rivers murmur softly, carrying stories to the sea, the trees sway gently, their branches whispering old songs. The mountains, unmoving, stand as witnesses to all that has been. And though the language of the past has faded, its meaning endures, the eternal rhythm of struggle and awakening, the quiet promise that no chain lasts forever. Somewhere, in the stillness, you may feel the echo of a prayer, not to gods of vengeance, but to the spirit of the world itself. A prayer for peace, for remembrance, for gratitude. For those who rose when all seemed lost. For those who dared to dream of a life unbound. Their courage has become part of the wind, part of the stars, part of the very breath you draw beneath this endless sky. As the lights ripple above, painting the heavens in waves of gold and green, reflection deepens into wonder. The story of the revolt is no longer only a tale of pain and fire, it is a song of endurance, of love, of the unbreakable bond between humanity and hope. It teaches that even when the world forgets, the soul remembers. That even when silence falls, truth speaks through the rustle of leaves, the glimmer of snow, the dance of the northern lights. Here, under this sky, time feels soft, almost meaningless. The centuries blur, and you can imagine them still, walking through the snow, their faces lifted to the stars, their hearts beating in rhythm with the wind. They are not gone, they are part of the world now, their story etched into every breath of cold air. They have become the guardians of freedom's flame, watching from the heavens, guiding those who come after. And so the lights drift on, slow and graceful, shimmering across the quiet sky. The land sleeps, the stars shine, the wind hums its eternal song. In the hush of night, reflection becomes peace. The story of the thralls, the fire, the revolt, becomes a gentle memory, no longer sharp with sorrow but glowing with reverence. They remind us that even in the coldest darkness, light waits above, patient, silent, eternal. Beneath the northern sky, all things are remembered. The night is quiet now. The wind drifts softly across the land, carrying with it the faint echo of a story that began long ago, a story of chains and courage, of silence and flame, of hearts that dared to dream beyond their bondage. The fires that once raged have faded into memory, yet their light still lingers, glowing faintly like embers hidden beneath snow. It is the light of freedom, fragile, eternal, unforgotten. The revolt has passed into history, and history into myth, yet the truth remains, woven through the fabric of time. It whispers in the breath of the wind, it shines in the eyes of those who refuse to kneel, it lives in the quiet strength of every soul that knows what it means to yearn. For though the world changes, the longing for freedom does not. It is a flame that cannot be smothered, a voice that cannot be silenced. Once awakened, it lives forever. The thralls who rose beneath the northern sky have become part of the world's heartbeat. Their cries of defiance echo in the dreams of generations, their courage flows through the veins of all who dare to stand against oppression. Though their names have faded, their spirit remains, carried forward like a torch passed from hand to hand across the ages. Each who takes it becomes part of their legacy, part of the endless chain of hearts bound not by iron, but by hope. Freedom is not born in grand halls or royal decrees, it begins in whispers, in small acts of defiance, in quiet prayers spoken in the dark. It is the breath drawn by the weary, the tears shed by the forgotten, the final heartbeat of those who would rather die standing than live in servitude. It rises not from power, but from love, love of life, love of dignity, love of the simple truth that all are meant to walk unbound beneath the sky. The world has learned, slowly and painfully, from their sacrifice. Empires have risen and crumbled, laws have been written and erased, yet the lesson endures, that no chain is eternal, that no master can hold what the soul refuses to surrender. In every age, when darkness grows heavy and despair takes root, the flame rekindles, in revolts, in songs, in movements that carry the same ancient promise, that freedom is the birthright of all. Look now upon the world and see their legacy. In the laughter of children running free, in the words spoken without fear, in the hands that build rather than break, their spirit lives. In every act of compassion, in every voice that speaks for the voiceless, in every heart that stands against cruelty, the old fire burns anew. It is quiet, gentle, but unyielding, spreading light wherever shadows fall. Beneath the stars, imagine their faces lifted to the heavens, eyes bright with the reflection of the dawn they dreamed of but never saw. They knew that freedom might not come for them, yet they rose so that others might one day live unbound. Their courage was a gift to the future, a promise left in the hands of those yet unborn. And you, listening now, are part of that promise, a keeper of the flame they carried through the darkness. Close your eyes and feel it, that gentle warmth within, the pulse of something greater than time. It is the same light that guided them through frost and fire, the same strength that urged them to rise. It lives within you, within all who believe that no soul is meant to serve in chains. It asks for no monument, no glory, only remembrance, a quiet vow to honor their courage by living free and helping others do the same. The story ends as it began, with silence, with wind, with stars watching from above. Yet endings are never truly endings, they are doorways to what comes next. The flame they kindled moves onward, carried in whispers, in hearts, in the gentle unfolding of a world still learning what it means to be just. Their voices fade, but their message remains, soft and eternal: rise, remember, hope. One day, perhaps, the world will know peace, not the peace of submission, but the peace born from understanding, from compassion, from the shared knowledge that freedom belongs to all. And when that day comes, the thralls who once walked in shadow will not be forgotten, for they were the first to light the path. The stars shimmer above, endless and patient, their light crossing centuries to touch the earth below. Beneath them, the land sleeps, carrying the dreams of those who came before. The rivers flow, the mountains stand, the forests whisper, and in every part of the world, the eternal flame of freedom glows quietly, waiting for each new generation to tend it with courage and care. Listen closely, and you will hear it, the faint hum of remembrance, the echo of footsteps walking toward dawn, the soft murmur of voices that will never be silenced. It is the sound of hope everlasting, the heartbeat of humanity itself. It tells us that though darkness may fall, light will always rise, for the spirit of the free can never be broken. And so, as the night deepens and the stars burn bright, let this story settle in your heart like a gentle ember. Let it remind you that courage is eternal, that freedom is sacred, that love is stronger than fear. The thralls are gone, but their flame endures, carried now within you, within all who believe that no soul is meant to bow. Guard it, cherish it, and let it shine. For the flame of freedom is eternal, and it will never fade.